if your generator doesn't start, I'm going to show you why. Stick around. The only tools you're going to need for this job is a regular screwdriver, 8mm socket, and I'm using a 1/4 inch socket wrench. You're going to need a 10mm wrench, and I like these ratchet wrenches. You're going to need a pair of pliers, and you might need a pair of vice grips, and I put tape on the ends because that's going to pinch the gas line. You're going to need a small flathead screwdriver, and most importantly, and you guys are going to find this kind of weird, to get this job done, you are going to need to get yourself a bread tie. Okay? Yes, a simple bread tie. So go in the kitchen, steal the bread tie off the loaf of bread, and take a little bit of the plastic part off of it so you just have a little bit of metal exposed. And yeah, you're going to need this. I'll show you why soon. Alright guys, so here we go. The first thing you're going to want to do is gain access to the engine. So you're just going to take this little screw off, take that panel off, set it aside, and next you're going to want to open the air filter because you need to get in there to take one of the nuts off. So you take the air filter off, you take the sponges, the air cleaning element out of there, and you set that aside. Next, you take your 8mm socket wrench, and there's a little bolt in here that you're going to undo and take out inside the air cleaner. Pull that little guy out, set him aside. Then you want to take this nut off here and this nut off here. These things come off pretty easily, very easily. And then as you slide this off, there's a little tube here that goes back into the engine. You can just pull that loose and it will come right out. Just make sure that when you put it together, you insert this back, okay? That's pretty important. So take this off, set this aside. Now, your carburetor is loose at this point, okay? Those two bolts that were on here were holding the carburetor back. So now the carburetor is loose. This is a gasket. You really don't want to lose this. So make sure you put that somewhere safe. And this is where we're gonna use the pliers here. We're gonna loosen this clamp and kind of slide it back. This is the fuel supply, right? And then I'm going to take my vice grip and I'm going to go all the way back here. So this is out of the way. And I'm going to pinch the fuel line. Okay? So now fuel can't come through there. Now there's still some fuel in the bowl. If you're familiar with the carburetor at all, fuel sits in this bowl, and that's kind of the big problem. What we're going to do is we're going to loosen up this nut that's underneath the bowl of the carburetor, and we can slide the carburetor out a little bit to do this too. Now fuel it's already kind of dripping. You might want to have a rag handy just to catch the fuel that's coming out of the bowl here. There'll be a little bit. It's not going to drip forever. So you're going to take this little bolt that's holding the carburetor bowl on, and you're going to pull that out. And now you can see the float inside of there. See it? Okay, so we can pull this out a little farther and get the bowl out of there. Now we can pull this carburetor. We'll pull it right off. And then you can just let that kind of hang there, and I'll get you a new angle. Now inside of here is where the jets are. Okay, so that's where your little screwdriver comes in. So you're going to look way down in there, and you're going to unscrew this jet. And it's going to be about 10 turns or so until it won't come out anymore. And you'll start to feel it when it doesn't come out anymore. I think I lost the hold of it. Here we go. There. Okay, now that's as far as I can take it with a screwdriver. So now I'm going to flip it up, and what's going to happen is this jet's should fall out of here. I gotta maybe tap it a couple times. There we go. Okay. All right. Now you see both of these? These are the jets of the carburetor. And if you look really closely, you might not be able to see this, guys, because this is so small. This camera's not going to pick it up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my other camera, and I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. I'll set these down. My phone usually has a better image, so we're going to try it with my phone here. Alright guys, we're going to get way down in here, real nice and close. I'm going to get as close as we can so you can see these little tiny holes. Come on, focus there. There we go. See these little holes? Those little holes are so tiny that fuel gets gummed up and it can't get through there at all. So you need to clean those out, okay? And the same goes for this little guy too. Let's see if you can focus. Come on. There. See that tiny little hole? I mean, in contrast, guys, this is so small. This is why you need the bread tie. Okay, so look at, here's the bread tie, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and force this bread tie through all of these little holes on this jet so fuel can come through. This is the biggest problem of these super efficient engines, and you know that this Honda is a super efficient engine because it just sips the fuel. But the problem is, when you store these for any length of time, and if the fuel is dirty at all, or if it, you know, it's just not cleaned, it's going to get gummed up in here for sure. So you really got to clean these out. Now I've already done this because I watched my YouTube videos already to know how it was done, and there were some other videos that showed me how this was done. So I did it, and I got my generator running real nicely. I'm just showing you guys exactly what I did to make it run because I want you to understand. So also you take this little guy. I'm not sure if this is called the jet or not. This might be like some sort of port. I don't know. I don't know carburetors really well. That's why I had to go to YouTube. But I'm showing you the video because I'm guessing with any very small engine that you have that's very fuel efficient, you know, similar to Honda engines, this is probably the problem, is the fuel is just not getting through those jets. So make sure that you put this back in the right direction. Oops. And I had to study hard to learn. So this is the right direction this goes in. Okay, put that all the way back in there. Put this little guy back in here, and then you're going to tighten this back up. Okay, but you're not going to tighten it too hard. You're going to get it snug, but you're not going to reef on it, because if you start reefing on it, you're going to do some damage inside the carburetor, and then you know what's going to happen. You're going to need a new carburetor, and it's going to cost you money that you don't want to spend. So just be gentle, guys. All right. Now, if your carburetor bowl here has any gunk in it, clean it out. Spray some brake cleaner in there or carburetor cleaner and clean that out as good as you can, because anything that gets stuck in here, that gets gummed up in here, is eventually going to find its way gummed up into those jets, and you don't want that. So, you know, you might have to come in here and kind of scrape some of this clean, and I didn't do that great of a job last time I did it, so I'm glad that I'm opening this up again. All right, so that's cleaner than it was. So this is the float. The pin is still in there. I was careful that this pin didn't fall out because I didn't want to have to mess with that. So now that I've got this bowl cleaned out and I've got the jets cleaned out, we're going to put this back exactly like we had it, okay? So the first thing, we're just going to line these long bolts up with the holes behind it. We're going to make sure that that goes all the way through. Now before we tighten this down, we have to put this bowl back on. And the way that these lines are, everything just kind of, it's so tight, it's really hard to get in here. You know, these small engines that are engineered to be so efficient, they don't have a whole lot of wiggle room for any air. So make sure that bowl gets up in there nice and tight. And then I'm going to put this bolt back in. Whoops, that's the wrong one. I grabbed the wrong one. You want the shorter one, right? There we go. And hand tighten that all the way, and then we'll just put, we don't want this too tight. We want it just tight enough. There we go. Like a quarter of a grunt, guys, right? Quarter of a grunt. Not a half grunt, not a full grunt, just a tight. All right, now we can start putting things back together. Don't forget this gasket. Okay, that's kind of important. So the first thing that we have is this air cleaner tube. So don't forget this tube. This is important. You got to get this tube back into the engine. Here, we can open that fuel line again because we've put the bolt back underneath the bowl. It's not going to go anywhere. So we can put this over here. Gasket's in place. Everything's lining up. Make sure that this tube gets back in there. There we go. You can feel it go in there. And put these bolts back on. These nuts back on. Nuts and bolts. Nuts and bolts, nuts and bolts. Get it all confused. Put this little bolt back in here. Get this socket wrench in here, 8 millimeters. Again, the bolt underneath the bowl is a 10 millimeter, and the ones holding the carburetor on, these ones, these three, the one in the air cleaner, and these two are all 8 millimeter. There, I'll save you some time messing around. Okay, so those are all the tools we use, right? We used everything here. We're going to put it all back together. We've got the air cleaner sponge here. Put those back in place. Bingo, bingo, guys. Tighten it up. And we'll even put the cover back on because we know everything's going to work, right? There's no doubt in our mind that this thing is going to work. Okay? So this is a very quick job if this is the third time you've done it, like me. But if it is not the third time you've done it, it might take a while. Now, it may take a few pulls because that bowl needs to fill up with fuel. Okay, so that's all right. Just go ahead and choke it and engine on, make sure the gas is on, and you're just going to pull. It might take a couple. You'll hear it fire soon. There we go. And that bowl filled with fuel. All right, guys, I'm sharing this with you because I had to go through this situation. This generator has been in storage for several years, okay? This is something that belonged to my dad. Those of you that have been following my channel, you know my dad's not with us anymore, so I've been taking care of a lot of his stuff. I got the generator going. What I'm going to do with it now, I don't know. I guess I'll have a generator to use, or maybe I'll sell it. I don't know what I'm going to do. But I had to do my due diligent research on YouTube. I found a couple different videos, and there was one guy who said, you need the bread tie, all right? The bread tie is the secret. Because I went through this, I thought it was clean. I went through it 2 times, and I put it back together, and I thought everything was clean. I cleaned out stuff as closely as I could. I used carb cleaner, brake cleaner. I used all the cleaners that I could, but I needed the bread tie. All right, now I know that there's a special tool for carburetors that you can clean out those orifices with, right? But how many people actually have those anymore? We don't have carburetors in our vehicles, so that's kind of a rarity tool. But those are the tools you need. Hopefully this video has been helpful for you. Normally I do videos on tractor stuff and family related stuff. This is just kind of a how to fix your Honda generator video. But if if you'd like this video, please give me a like. If you want to subscribe to the channel and see what this is all about, please do so. I do have a Facebook group. It's called A Ritter Bit Will Do. So go ahead and join. You can message me and you can tell me that this video fixed your Honda generator for you. That would be awesome. I'd love to hear it. Okay, guys, as I close out every single video, until next time, keep on tractoring and God bless.